Hey guys, this is Crowbar Zero, and today I'm going to be talking about what are the best ultimate weapons in version 19 of the tower. So, like always, and this one's probably always on the top of the list, you always want to start out. Get it as early as you can, Golden Tower. Always going to be useful, it's always going to progress your account. Um, I can't ever think of a downside to it. And some people are like, well, maybe I should turn it off for performance for late in tournament. Nah, I wouldn't even bother. I've never turned it off. Always going to progress your account farther and farther and farther. And right now, there's no stopping as far as needing a ton of coin. So, yeah. Black hole, it's going to be kind of like, same reason with Golden Tower. Once you get the labs and once you get to tier 5 wave 150, you can start knocking out those labs, and I think it's a little bit farther in to tier 5 you can research a second black hole. The lab will allow any enemies that are within the black hole to drop up to times 11 coins. Super important to make sure that their cooldowns between black hole and golden tower are synchronized. That way, you just it's you just have a whole huge coin, you know, huge coin income. It's really going to boost it up. Really super useful tool. Now, one of the banes of black hole, and everyone complains about it, is bots or protectors. Little enemies that come in with their little green auras, and they don't spawn on tier 1, but all the other tiers they will spawn. And they prevent the orbs or death ray, which you're not going to want to use in farm, but great in tournament. It's going to protect those enemies from the instant death effect of those abilities. So, the best scalable option to make sure that you're clearing those prots out of your black hole and not sitting there hating life is going to be Smart Missile. Scales has way higher damage than something else that you could sync, which would be Death Wave. So it's more, well, it's like Wet Noodle versus a barrage of, missiles. So take your pick on what you want to use to clear out your black holes. Definitely going to clear out a lot of enemies, especially later into your runs. And then talking about damage, the next one would be Spotlight. And it is kind of a contender, Spotlight, for the number 3 position. But the reason why I put Smart Missiles in there is because I think it's way more important to have Smart Missiles synchronized with Black Hole, which currently mine are not, as you can see on this demo. But yeah, try to get those synchronized up, and they'll be absolutely amazing for Coinfall. The reason I put Spotlight at number 4 is getting that third Spotlight is really expensive, but it's super useful. Like it's amazing. I say good to move on after 40/3. Not really worried initially about the damage per se, because you're mostly going for trying to get a moderately decent coin modifier or a multiplier. The 5th choice is going to be Chrono Field. Now, some people might want to take this earlier. Honestly, I would rather be progressing my account with even a slightly higher multiplier from Spotlight. But yeah, Chrono Field is fairly nice. From the start, the biggest use is you'll get a damage reduction option, and that applies after all the other damage reduction effects. So if you would take, they shot you for 1,000 and you only take 100, after everything else is said and done, then you would take, 10% off that. So maybe you take 90 damage. And then eventually, as you get that to its max duration and max uptime, which would be 1 minute cooldown, but in actuality, it's like 1 point something. You know, there's a little bit of a like a microsecond in there off. So you want to make sure that your duration is going to be 1 minute and 1 second, just so you don't have that one enemy that has a blip of the speed up. Your next crowd control source is going to be coming from Poison Swamp. So, Poison Swamp, you're not going to be worried about the damage. You're just going to aim everything at trying to make sure that it spawns as often as possible, and it has the best chance to stun your enemies. So that's going to be much more lab intensive than Chrono Field. The big one with Chrono Field is going to be that duration lab, which does take longer. But all in all, you've got 3 labs in Poison Swamp that you're going to want to get as close to max as possible. Inner landmines. Luckily for this one is like not an expensive jump. So basically, your goal with inner landmines is you're going to go for 6 quantity, and the whole chunk of that is you're going to get that rotation up as high as you can. That way, when boss is coming in, it will stun the boss, and ideally, hopefully, you get him like somewhat stun locked. It's a lot easier with the perk that you would get in a farming run, because you get like an extra layer in between the 2 layers. You can actually keep them stun locked. Versus tournament, you're probably gonna get maybe up to like 3, maybe. Just kind of a rough number of stuns that you can get off. But again, the whole thing is you want to keep them stunned just so you can give a little bit more time so your smart missiles can go off and ideally destroy that boss. Now, the last one that I feel like actually has some use would be Chain Light. You want to amp it up so it spreads to all the enemies and applies their shock modifier. Now, it doesn't, the enemy that gets hit from your bullet that spawns it does not take the chain lightning damage, and shock will not be applied to it. There has to be another enemy that spawns it, or it chains off of, that hits the boss, or that enemy that you originally shot, to be able to apply that. So it's kind of wonky. It's not going to really help for bosses, but for like standard mobs, it can be really cool. And then the shock multiplier goes up to 1.66 times. So it's not going to be a huge bonus compared to things like Spotlight, but it's a tool that you can use, and if you start ramping up its damage as well, it'll do more than your normal bullet damage. Obviously, it doesn't apply things like your knockback effects, so your bullet damage is, or just your bullets in general, are always going to be useful. Also, just something to think about: the higher your attack speed, basically you're going to get more procs of chain lightning per second than you would at a lower attack speed. Now, Deathwave. Why did I put this all the way at the end? And Puppy has a hairball, apparently. The damage on Deathwave is absolutely horrible. It has a really long cooldown. It costs a ton to reduce it. So you're basically like, oh hey, I'm pumping damage into a wet noodle. That if I kill enemies with said wet noodle, I get a small coin bonus. Or at least each level that you increase is like, was it like a 5%? But for the most part, you'll be getting that bonus from more of like the early part of the run, not the part of the run where you've got all of your perk bonuses running, where you're getting way more coins than you would otherwise. So I really don't feel like Deathwave in its current state is really worth it. Um, if it had something along the lines of like an instant death mechanic attached to it, um, I would say, yeah, maybe this is actually something that's kind of cool. But right now, I feel like it's just a complete waste. And yeah, you can use the labs to increase your effective hit points, but I feel like nothing's going to push your account farther and farther along than just having a good chunk of coin production in the first place. And unfortunately, you're not going to get that at the beginning of the run. You're going to be getting that later in the run. So that is my take on the current state of all the ultimate weapons. Will this change in other versions? I'm pretty sure it will. Um, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys got a lot out of this, and I will catch you guys later.